Hello, and welcome to Pragmatic Live, Pragmatic Marketing's webinar and podcast series where we tackle the biggest challenges facing today's product teams. My name is Rebecca Calageris. I am the Vice President of Marketing and Sales at Pragmatic Marketing, and more importantly to you, the host for today's event. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. First, a recording of this webinar and a copy of the slides will be available afterwards. You'll be able to access them by the end of the day at pragmaticmarketing.com/live. Second, questions. We love questions. If you look to the left of your screen, you'll see a chat box. Feel free to enter any and all questions you have for us in that box, and we'll work hard to get through as many of those as we can at the end of the presentation. Now, many of you are already familiar with Pragmatic Marketing. But for those of you not aware of us until today, welcome to the family. We specialize in training companies and product teams on how to be truly market-driven. We provide techniques for listening to the market and gathering market facts, and then using those facts to shape strategies and drive execution. And we've been doing this and doing it quite successfully for over 20 years. Today's topic is our take on the classic love story. But instead of boy meets girl, it's buyer meets seller, and how we can align our processes to theirs to make the perfect match. Helping us address this topic is Larry Torri, who has over 30 years of experience in executive sales management role at technology companies of all shapes and sizes, from giants like Siemens and Nortel to startups like NetSpeak and his current home, AssureSign. So without further ado, here's Larry.
Great. Thank you so much, Rebecca. So we really live in exciting times. You know, the evolving sales process is ever changing, and it's really thanks to technology and information. So what we're going to look at today is just a quick look at the traditional sales process, something that you probably already have in place. We'll look at how it's evolving for the buyer, and then we'll look at some trends that us as marketers and sales folks are trying to use to adapt to that process. And then lastly, we'll look at ways that you can evaluate your own existing processes and then begin to adapt yourselves. I want to kick off, though, with a really quick and easy poll question, and that is, does your organization have a sales playbook or sales process? So if you wouldn't mind just clicking your selections, and they are, yes, we've had one for years and it's great. Yes, we evaluate and update ours annually. Yes, we have one and we update it regularly, and that could be daily, weekly, monthly. Or no, we don't have a formal sales process. So I'm watching the returns come in, and there's an overwhelming number so far on the we don't have one. I find that interesting. But that's good. That's good. That's great. So I think results are in. And we see that overwhelmingly the folks don't have them, and then we have the next large subset, which they update them regularly, which is a great place to be. And that's really where we're going to focus today is how we can help update those and perhaps even establish one. So hopefully all of the things that we talk about today will resonate and be valuable to everyone who has or does not have a formal sales process. So things really haven't changed since John Dewey introduced us to a formal sales process. So sort of the father of sales and understanding someone's need. So recognizing that people are going to need things, and then people are going to research and look at how they could meet that need or problem and need. So what's available out there for me to go buy. Then they're going to put together their own evaluation process and look at alternatives. They'll look at competitors. They'll figure out the best way. Is it cost? Is it value? How am I going to make my selection? And that'll roll into some purchase decision. And then there'll be some post-purchase behavior. And in the past, we didn't really focus all that much on post-purchase behavior, but we're going to talk a lot about post-purchase behavior today. And everyone does need a business direction and method. And as we saw, a lot of you have a formal sales process, and it was built on what you knew. It was based on your product. It was based on the market. It was based on your competitors. And lots of things went into your sales process. So let's look at what it probably is made up of today. Lead and demand generation. So that's what marketers do, right? They go buy lists or find lists or build lists. They create events for you and generate leads through advertising. In sales, you might be doing cold calling off of some of those lists, or you're following up on the ads, or you're following up on referrals that someone has sent you to. But there's a variety of ways, and we're not going to go into all of them, but there's a variety of ways, of course, that you get your leads. Once you have those leads, you're going to qualify them and move them through a formal sales process. And typical qualification today is budgeting, authority, need, and timeline. So you need to make sure they have the money, you're talking to the right person, that they have the ultimate need, and that it aligns with your timeline and time frame. So they're going to be buying in a relatively short period of time, or based on the normal sales cycle. But understanding what all those are, so you would never be working with someone who didn't have money or authority and need, but you may be working with some that have one of the three or four of the three. I'm sorry, three of the four. And then once you've qualified that prospect, you're going to manage them through a traditional sales process. You're going to do the traditional discovery. You're going to find out who all the players are. You're going to look at competition. You're going to have meetings. You develop a relationship. You're going to propose, ultimately close, and then have some post-sale involvement. And typically, that is done with a single sales rep. So they're doing the qualifying, they're doing the managing, and then they're doing the post-sale, unless you have hunters and farmers, where you have certain set of salespeople that are hunting, finding new business, and then another set of folks that are farming that installed base. But those are the traditional sales processes. And then supporting all of that are the traditional resources: marketing, again, demand lead generation, market awareness, advertising. So that's building that sales funnel. Then you have that sales team. Traditionally, again, it's an inside sales rep doing lead follow-up and qualify, and it might move to an account executive, and then that sales team is made up of the sales rep, and sometimes they'll bring in the leverage of a sales manager or an executive, and oftentimes a technical resource like a sales engineer to help you with that process. And then they're going to manage all of that with tools. You have collateral that you'll give out throughout the sales process. You'll give them competitive briefs, or you'll leverage that internally. You might present case studies and say, hey, here's what we did for someone that looks like you, and here's how great they did with it, and here's why you want to buy from us. And you'll probably manage that in a CRM or customer relationship management application so that all of your data is in a single place. So I like to look at this as the top marketing is feeding the funnel, then you have working the funnel by the sales team, and then you have the data tools that help you manage the funnel and the funnel process. So really funnel building, funnel management, and then funnel reporting and or funnel views. But what's changing in that sales process? What's changing is that buyers are finding information in different places than they used to in the past. And that's websites. It's either your website, your competitor's website, or some other kind of website. It's by LinkedIn. Hey, finding someone, if I'm looking for a particular product, I might look on LinkedIn in my network to find out if anyone that I know or even someone I could meet is already using that particular product or that particular service. I could go find out information from them. I could do the same thing on Facebook. I could go read blogs, positive blogs and negative blogs. Who's doing well with this particular product and who's not doing well with that product. But they're looking everywhere even before they get to you. And there was a recent Customer Executive Board or CEB study that shows that buyers are already 60% through that purchase process before they even engage your sales reps. And this is mostly in a B2B environment, but those educated buyers are now looking in different places to find information. In a old legacy consultative sales process, you are acting as a consultant and you are educating your customer, where they're coming to you now and they're way ahead of you in the process. And sometimes, and sales reps don't like to hear this, sometimes the customer is more educated than them and can consider them an annoyance as, oh geez, I have to talk to a sales guy. Why can't I just continue this process on my own? Ultimately, though, they do need to talk to someone in sales because they have to get the contract to them, but unless you have other means to get someone signed up. But essentially, these are staggering statistics that someone is already 63% through the process before they even engage sales. So how do we change that? So what do we do? And a lot of it is on the front end. If people are finding information, you have to post information about your product or service as quickly as you can on as many places as you can. So again, on your website, provide as much information as you feel necessary or will help you in your sales process. You don't always want to give them too much, but you want to give them just enough to answer the questions that you think they want to have answered. You want to give them guidance on your website and act as that consultant through your website and through your resources. If you don't have a resources page on your website, you probably should, that talks about your industry, that talks about your product. White papers to talk about your product. And all of them should be combined with some kind of call to action. And if you're going to give out those resources, especially like things like white papers, you should capture that person's information so you can market to them along the way, or introduce them to your sales process, which is going to be a little bit different. So again, if you're going to be doing that, you need to be having some sort of call to action and hopefully collect some information about them. And it's all about web impressions, right? Your blogs, your partner blogs, industry blogs, getting your name out there, creating YouTube videos, or having a LinkedIn page and a Facebook page that talks about your customer success. That's where people are going to be shopping, if you will, before they get to your sales team. And you can also refer them to those places as well as they're in the sales process. If you're going to collect data on your website, then I highly recommend that you use some sort of lead nurturing and marketing automation application. These are just some samples. I'm not endorsing these guys at all. We happen to use one of these and love them. But I'm certainly not endorsing any of them. But the Marketos and the Pardots of the world are great ways to take those leads that are in your funnel, whether they're raw leads or they're working opportunities, and do some sort of marketing automation and nurturing to them along the way. I'll talk a little bit more about that in this process as well. And then something that cannot be overlooked, especially in this new technology realm, is crowdsourcing. And what we are finding in our industry, this is a software as a service application, that our clients and our prospects are looking at these places, not necessarily Yelp, that's more B2C, but TrustRadius, IT Central, G2 Crowd is a new one that is kind of mimicking Gartner and is creating a magic quadrant of sorts in the technology space. And it's somewhat free. The way G2 Crowd works is that you have to log in with a LinkedIn ID so that they know you're a real person, that you're not someone from that company faking it and giving some kind of fake review. That you really need to do, and they do a great job of authenticating that, the person doing their review, so that you can rest assured as an evaluator that there are appropriate reviews on that, and they're not canned or supported by that particular vendor. They are completely real, or as real as they could possibly be. But G2 Crowd is one of those up-and-comers that I think is really interesting, and someone that, if you're in technology, that you should look at or at least consider. And most of these are free. What you need to do, though, is work with your customers to post their success to those resources. But those are great resources where people are really looking today to help them make their decision-making process a little bit easier, or to even filter out the companies that they want to look at as they evaluate their opportunities. So this is going to roll us into our next poll question. So that question is, what are you doing? So what of these are you doing today? And we'll roll into that poll. And the options here are, we use marketing automation. So it doesn't have to be one of those that I mentioned. Is it, do you use marketing automation today? Do you post out to crowdsourcing outlets? You do both, or you do neither. So the curiosity for me in this one is, have you all seen these crowdsourcing outlets, and are you using them and leveraging them? So good set of responses so far, and I'm pleasantly surprised to see that, again, a large number of you are using marketing automation. So we can skip the results here and see that 45% or 46% are using marketing automation, yet roughly 38 to 37% are not doing either of those. And as expected, there is a low percentage of folks that are seeing these crowdsourcing outlets as a means to educate. But we have certainly found them to be valuable, and I'm happy to talk about more of that later. But those are great results. Thank you all for responding, and again, very glad to see that you're using marketing automation, because we're going to talk about that as we move into the next steps of kind of what we can be doing. So one of the new big trends in sales, and I'm going to now talk more about sales, and that is this notion of sales development. And we're seeing in traditional sales models, as I described earlier, that you have someone, maybe it's an inside salesperson, and they're qualifying leads or they're doing cold calling, or in most models, it's the leads are being fed to an account executive, that account executive then cold calls if they're cold leads, if they're warm leads they call. But it's done by one person building their own funnel and then managing that funnel and then closing deals. And there's probably some sales management metric that says I need this many leads to turn to this many opportunities to turn to this many closed deals. Well, things are changing because, again, people are shopping differently. They're evaluating things differently. And what we're seeing is a huge trend to something called sales development or sales development representatives within your organization. And they are highly specialized, highly focused individuals that are separate from the traditional sales team. And they're focused on nurturing until that opportunity is qualified, and then they're handed off to the sales team. So these teams are, again, highly focused. They have very, very specific metrics, and they have one specific focus, and that's getting leads transferred to account executives. So once those SDRs are in place and hiring them, the hiring techniques and the hiring expectations are very different looking for these folks. Typically they're freshly out of college with little to no sales experience. They're generally low base compensation with high expectation for flipping leads or turning leads over. So they're very, very focused on what they do. Their tenure expectations are very different from what you would traditionally see in sales as well. Tenure is anywhere from 12 to 18 months. So if you're looking at a 1 to 2 month ramp, and then they might be with you in full productivity for anywhere from 11 to 15 months, then that's the type of person you need to have churning through your organization. You get them ramped up, you make them highly effective and highly successful, and then they may progress into being an account executive, or they may progress and matriculate out of your organization. But these are highly managed, highly focused sales development reps that focus exclusively on getting leads transferred to account team members. And they will use that nurturing and marketing automation that you have. So again, based on your industry and what you want to educate the customer on, they will use a combination of cold calling and traditional content marketing through marketing automation at some regular cadence. And it would take too long to talk about scoring and how you might want to look at how you score your leads so that this particular lead gets this particular piece of content. But those are things that need to happen. But these sales development reps will help that nurturing process. So they need to have the tools available to them. So as they're cold calling into an opportunity, maybe they built their own leads list, or they were given a leads list, hey, follow up on this, convert these to opportunities. So they're going to use your traditional marketing automation and send regular cadence. So they came in, they visited our website, they downloaded a white paper, that's a lead. So this sales development rep is now going to focus on that particular lead and try and convert that to a valued prospect that's going to be handed over to sales. So they might do that with their first piece of marketing automation that sends a thank you letter for downloading that white paper. And that's very traditional. And then there might be cold calling to follow up with that as well, try to schedule a demo. And that's, again, very typical. You might do ad hoc. So based on some recent news in your industry or particularly about your company, and you want to get that real-time information out to that particular person or that group of people that have qualified based on a particular lead score to that appropriate level in your lead qualification. So getting real-time ad hoc content out to them as quickly as possible. And then taking action on customer action. And this is something that we do, and I'll talk a little bit about it in a minute, but that is if a customer does something, they download a white paper, and later they come back and download another white paper, or even if they visit your website and go to a specific page on your website, and you see that they've done that based on some of the marketing automation tools that you have, being able to take immediate action on that. And all of this and all of these devices and new technologies give you increased insight on your customer's behavior. So they downloaded the white paper. What traditionally happens next? and can you guide them to that next action? So they download the white paper, that might inspire them to come and look at your technology a little bit deeper, or maybe they want to schedule a demo. So understanding that, and again, pushing the appropriate content and guiding them the way you want to see them guided. So I'll tell you a little bit about our story on this. So we're a software as a service company. We offer an electronic signature solution to a broad market. We're very, very, very horizontal. So if you think about anybody signing a document anywhere, that's what we do. And we focus in certain verticals, but we are, again, very horizontal. So we have lists and leads that come in from all sorts of places, and we use, again, one of those marketing automation tools that I talked about. And people can come to our website and they can sign up for webinars and they can get demos and do all sorts of things. And we use that marketing automation to send things to them. But what our sales development reps do, because the tool allows this, when someone comes back and visits our website, or they act on an email that we've sent, they click through that email in the marketing automation. They click through to look at a new press release that just came out that we sent them to go view. We have real-time visibility to them coming and looking at that particular document or visit that particular website or that event. And so with that, our sales development reps will ad hoc decide to pick up the phone and give them a call. Sometimes that can be a little creepy and a little freaky, but if it's done appropriately, then it works. So certainly you're not going to call someone and say, hey, I just saw you downloaded that white paper. That's a little creepy. Or I saw that you were on our website and you looked at this page and this page and this page. Typically it's a little bit more casual than that. And you might say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Or if you sent them a press release, here's a great example. I sent them a press release because we announced a new product enhancement that happened to be a product that was matches to what their business or their unique market. So they came to your website, they visited it, and you knew that. You might want to wait either several hours or even the next day and say, hey, I was just thinking about you because I know we had this press release and your particular application might fit with ours. So again, thinking about what we do, we act upon those in real time, and we do it with our sales development reps, and we do it a little bit with our our regular account executives when the process is matured and moved into that process. So traditional sales development is traditionally based on BANT, as we mentioned earlier. So that's understanding the budget, the authority, the need, and the timeline. But things are really changing here, and you need to be thinking a little bit differently when you're trying to qualify. And this is what a lot of really progressive technology companies anyway are doing here. And instead of just saying, do you have the need, and I think we have an application that's going to match your need, just ask them flat out, what do you want to accomplish? What is it you are trying to do? Instead of saying, what is your need? What is it you're trying to do? Look more broadly about what it is they're trying to accomplish. So if it's getting documents signed faster in our environment, that's what you want to hear. Not that they're looking for an electronic signature solution. What they're really looking for is the ability to sign documents faster and more efficiently. So it's thinking about what they're wanting to accomplish more so than it is what you think they're looking for specifically in a product. Ask them what plans they have. What do they expect to be doing? How do you expect to use this particular product or this particular piece of technology? How do you expect to propagate it throughout your organization? So what are your plans for doing whatever it is you're looking at? Again, timeline is always important. It has to be a part of any kind of qualification process. So what is it that you expect to be able to, when is it that you expect to be able to make a decision? And can you buy sooner than later? Can you buy part of it now and part of it later? So again, what do you really want to get done and how fast do you want to get it done? As a buyer, or as this new buyer that I'm going to start talking about in just a little bit, what obstacles are in their way? So what is going to stop you from doing that? Is price going to stop you? Is an executive manager going to stop you? Is the technology isn't going to fit with our existing technology? Is that going to stop you? So what's in your way of doing what you want? Budget, that doesn't go away. You need to have the budget. They need to be able to understand how they're going to pay for it, but you have to think about it more just, do you have the budget? So if you don't have the budget, can I help you understand an ROI that would maybe provide you that budget? Can I save you money that would free money up to give you the budget? So again, asking those different types of questions rather than is this project budgeted? Is this particular piece of software budgeted? And if they say it's not budgeted, ask them how it can be budgeted, how we could potentially change it up, how we could potentially make things a little bit different. And then ultimately you absolutely have to have the authority. Am I talking to the right person? And as we look at some of these modern companies and what they've done a little bit differently, we'll see that the authority section, while it's really important, changes a little bit too. And we'll look a little bit about that a little bit later. But also what we believe in some of these technology companies that are doing some of these change-ups, what they're looking for is stricter qualification criteria. So when you specialize in these sales development reps and you're investing in them to do deep qualification in a different way, whatever they hand over has to be of higher quality, because your expectation is that that's a highly qualified lead being handed to a highly sophisticated account executive that's going to take that forward and have a higher close rate and close ratio. So we look for stricter qualification criteria, and as we say, don't be afraid to throw something back. So if it's not a match, if you're looking at your qualification criteria and they say, I'm absolutely buying, I've got budget, I'm absolutely going to buy something, but you do whatever type of research you do and your sales qualifier's done it, and you find out that that the CEO of the company you're selling to happens to be the brother of the CEO of some other company that's a competitor, well, I'm going to back out of that deal. So understanding just because there are very specific buying signs, you need to be more strategic about what you qualify and what you move over from your lead stack over to qualified. And this is something that we've done. We have very, very strict criteria, and I'll talk about another company in a little bit that does the same. And we'll actually take opportunities because they're not ours and they just don't fit in our very specific criteria, and we'll tell them to go and, you know what, here's a competitor. They do a better job of what you're looking to do. Go buy from them, because they're just not a fit for us. On either we ultimately know we would not win the deal, and we would spend a lot of time, or we would win the deal and they would not be a happy customer. And we'll just say, go use this other vendor. And we're not afraid to do that because, again, we highly qualify as we move through the funnel. So let's now look at this new adaptive sales process. So this is something that we need to take into consideration now that we have either more or less educated buyers, and that we have to kind of change things up. So we focus on this qualification by the SDR, sales development rep. And again, highly focused on moving things through a qualification process. And again, keeping in mind that these folks now are probably just as educated as you are about your industry and about the products that they're looking at. You need to think about getting to different people. And I know that the traditional model is, I know who my buyer is. I know I need to talk to the VP of sales, or I know I need to talk to the VP of operations, and that's who I need to get to. Well, if you can't get to that person, try within that organization. This is what we focus our sales process on, and this is what lots of progressive technology companies do, is they go to try and find those sales agents or change agents that want to make a difference. They want to be the disruptors. It's the person that says, you know what, I want this, but my executive management does not think we have budget for it, but I think we can do something here. You need to figure out, through qualification, you need to figure out if that change agent or disruptor can help you guide through the sales process and create a need that might not already be there. And so you need to look for different people, and then coach those change agents through the sales process and how to buy. Here's how you do the ROI. Here's how you can build a budget. Here is your cost savings. Build the presentation. Give them to take that to their executive management team. And I'm not talking about doing this in the sales development role now. I'm talking about doing this in the account management role. So once you've got this qualified lead, so even though it might not be the exact person that has authority, but is a significant influencer and could potentially be a change agent, then you focus on them and help them understand how to do the buying process and how to modify that through the executive channel. You can help this guy look like he's a hero. Hey, you know what? The executives thought that they could buy it, didn't realize that they could, because this change agent showed them how they could buy the technology that they didn't think they could afford. But disrupt the sales process. If your competitors are in there doing something the traditional way and you're not being creative, you need to be creative in that sales process by feeding them different types of information and helping them not to follow the traditional sales process. You change the sales process to map to the way you want it to run, and not expect that the customer wants to buy the way you've always sold to that particular type of customer or that particular market. Think about doing things differently. And you can do this in an experimental way and don't have to do it completely right up front. And you see lots of companies doing that, where they're just experimenting with some of these new disruptive sales processes. So the quintessential example in this different approach is Salesforce.com. The rapid rise of Salesforce.com was by disrupting the sales process. It was getting to that small business unit or that individual that could sign up and get it for free at first, and then, oh wow, this is really great, look what I've done here, don't you want to buy a couple more seats and a couple more seats? And they would get into some of the largest organizations by finding the right place, finding that right small buyer that could buy and be a change agent for that business and say, I'm going to disrupt what we're doing here. I'm not going to follow executive management's lead. I'm not going to involve IT. I'm going to sign up for this software as a service application that allows me to just put it on my credit card, sign up for it, start buying it. I'm going to get marketed to. I'm going to show my success. I'm going to show my peers what I'm doing, and maybe they want to sign up for it too, and that's the way it goes through an organization. And Salesforce has those sales development reps that offer it for free to someone. Hey, go show this around. Who's your manager? Why don't you get them to try it? And they disrupt the sales process, and they create a need where there almost never is a need. Or they didn't recognize there was a need. I shouldn't say that. They didn't recognize there was a need for that particular application. And now Salesforce is certainly much more than CRM. They have trouble ticketing and support desk and a million other applications as they've grown. And again, that's how they get in an organization. Another great example of this whole effort specifically in sales development is a small company based here in Atlanta called SalesLoft. And I just recently attended their first ever user conference. There were 250 people in attendance at their user conference and partner conference. SalesLoft launched as a company in the fall of 2013. And in January 2014, a year ago, in January 2014, they had revenues of $256,000. 11 months later, at the end of last year, they went from 2 sales development reps to 12 sales development reps and 5 account executives, and their revenue was $4.2 million. Now, what they do something completely different. They're in a greenfield environment. They offer something that nobody else does, but they are using these highly specialized sales development reps to generate the opportunities. Their particular product leverages LinkedIn to build sales lists. And using their own software and their own playbook and sales process, that's the kind of meteoric growth that they had based on some of those processes. Now I know this is a small company, it's high tech, but this sales development effort works across all businesses, and I highly encourage you all to check these guys out, and I'm certainly not endorsing them, but go check them out on their website. You can download some sales playbooks, and you can understand how they had that type of exponential growth in their environments. It's pretty incredible, and they are kind of a great company. So as we kind of roll down and wind down here, I'm going to ask another poll question, that is, do you track win-loss? Because win-loss in all of this is going to be really important. So I'm going to ask you if you track win-loss, but I'm going to ask it in a couple of different ways. So we poll our wins, and we understand why we win. We poll our wins and some of our wins. We poll some of our wins and losses, or we poll all of our wins and all of our losses, or no, we don't collect any kind of win-loss info. So as results come in, I see that this is great. They pull some of their wins and losses, and few people are saying that they don't collect any wins and loss results. So let's look at our results here. So that's great. So 47%, and if we just jump that up, so 50% at least pull their wins and losses, and then another 18% poll. So only 30% don't do any kind of win-loss reports, and that's really great. So we're going to now look at how important this win-loss information might be. So we should probably take a deeper dive in our win-loss because we can learn so much more from it, right? So there really isn't a better way to understand the buyer's process and ask those questions. Ask those deeper questions. So before you got to us, what did you do? How did you research? Where did you research? Where did you get your information? Did we educate you during the sales process, or did you find that education somewhere else? They might say, hey, I visited your competitor's site, and I saw that they posted they did this and this and this, but in the sales process I learned that you do the same thing, but I didn't learn that from your website. You can gain incredible insight from your win-loss if you ask the right questions. And you need to be able to adapt to what you hear. So if you think about it, right, those information sources are everywhere. The crowdsourcing is everywhere. So if you found that someone looked at G2 Crowd and saw that your product wasn't listed there, but your competitors were, but you still won the business, that might be a place that you want to start leveraging information. Or if they found the white paper they downloaded from your website to be exceptionally useful, then absolutely promote that particular document as much as you possibly can. Push that out. Build that into your marketing and nurturing campaigns. So understand exactly how you won the deal to more and better understand how your buyer's process works. What is it they're looking at? Where are they shopping? And you can get some great competitive insights out of this as well. And then you also might want to, as discussed, reevaluate your qualification process and tightening it up and not being afraid to let go. And then separating that qualification process using sales development reps specifically rather than the traditional method. And it may just work for you. And I'm not suggesting that everybody should be doing all of these things, but you should consider looking at these as alternatives. So if your sales are flat or you haven't been doing anything creative lately, you might want to consider separating or creating a small SDR team that's focused exclusively on qualifying different types of leads and handing them over to an account executive rather than having the account executive follow up on all the leads themselves. So again, just some options and some things that you might want to look at in considering some things just to make change, to do things a little bit differently. And don't be afraid to step out there and be different, right? Disrupting the sales process works. Doing things differently works, and certainly if you're just experimenting with it, there is no harm in that. And you really have the power to figure that out and experiment. You know, try talking about the concepts of not doing so much solution selling, but disruptive coaching. Talk about finding different people in the organization to talk to and figure out how they might be able to help you influence that. And just figure out who those change agents might be, and you could do that through the win-loss reports that you do. Talk to all the people that influence that sale and find out, you know, maybe their role was the disruptive agent or disruptive buyer in that particular case. So figure out how you can find those people and how you can coach them through that sales process, and then build that into the sales process. I want to find in my sales process, I want to find that antagonist that wants to look like a hero, that's the up-and-coming, you know, technologist that wants to, you know, leap in front of everyone, or that person in sales that's personal goal is to keep IT out of all of their decisions. So if I've got that that change agent that can help me eliminate IT, I'm going to coach him to help me do that as much as I possibly can, if that's my strategy, if that's what I want to do. If I want to keep procurement away as long as possible, find the agent that can help me do that. And just, again, more thoroughly understanding your sales process and then understand how to manipulate through that, that maze of buyers. And then we also want to figure out how to leverage technology. So integrated customer relationship management and marketing automation. We happen to use CRM that's deeply integrated with our marketing automation. So when people come back into and visit our website, for example, we learn that in CRM. So every morning a sales rep can come in, look inside their CRM, and see that these 5 people who are in my prospect funnel from a sales development rep, or they're in my sales funnel that I'm actively managing, and I can then more succinctly focus on what they just did, the action that they took last night. They visited my website. Maybe I want to proactively push a new campaign to them, or I want to proactively push a white paper to them just because I knew they came in last night, or maybe I want to pick up and give them a call. Sometimes, again, can be creepy, but if you manage it appropriately, it's not so creepy, it looks coincidental. And then lastly, what you really want to do is push as much information as possible to as many resources as possible with calls to action. So if you're going to post on a blog, or if you're going to post on a competitor, not a competitor's blog, on a partner's blog or an industry blog, try and make some sort of call to action so you can get them to your website, so you can build them into your funnel, and push them through that process and educate them the way you want them to be educated, rather than them having to go scramble and find information. Post information where you want it to be found, and post the information that you want to be found, again, on the resources where you want them to be. So you know your customers are going to be more educated than they used to be when they come and visit and engage you in the sales process. So push the information to help them to be more educated on their own. So I will close with that, and we can move into the Q&A section.
Excellent.
So Rebecca, if you want
job.
to help out with that.
Sure. You know what, Larry, we got some great questions in here. So first we're going to ask from Stan, what questions do you recommend that you ask to get at authority as part of the sales process?
Get it a story, like what they're,
at authority.
Oh, authority. Get to,
yes.
Okay, were you trying to get to the authority or find out who the authority is?
I think to get at whether or not this person has authority, and if not, who it might be.
And so there's certainly a variety of ways. You can use the straightforward approach, you know, in that are you able to make this decision? So are you able to buy this? And then do you have authority over that particular budget? Or do you own this project? Another great way to ask it kind of in a roundabout way is, do you own this project? Do you own the results of the project? Do you own the ROI on this project? And then if they answer affirmatively to those in a roundabout way, then you can kind of follow up with that and say, do you also own the budget and the authority to make that decision? We use some creative and roundabout ways to get to that. But there's nothing wrong with just asking flat out, are you the decision maker on this? Or are you just going to be a coach for me, and I'll help you look like a hero? What can I do for you to get me to the right person?
Excellent. We have a question from Sarah. Is there a standard ratio of sales development reps to account executives?
And that is an excellent question. And oftentimes it depends on the business or industry. It depends on how many leads an account executive can manage. So how many leads do you kind of filter over to them? And I think it's somewhat of a trial and error kind of thing. In technology, where and it depends on your close ratio and how you're qualifying, and what kind of leads you're tossing over. But traditionally, what you see is 2 sales development reps to 1 account executive in a high growth, high tech. So what we do, what SalesLoft does, I know with Salesforce, it's there's so much on a grander scale. They're doing like a 5-to-1 sales development, because they have so much more funnel and so much opportunity in so many different places they're looking. I think they do a 5 SDRs to 1 account executive, and then they do some different things. But you really kind of have to look at your funnel metrics and understand how many leads you've got out there, and is the sales development rep also finding leads, using tools like SalesLoft and developing their own lead sources on their own through LinkedIn, and then using that as a means to feed the account executive funnel. So there's lots of variables, but it's pretty traditional, right? It's if I've got too many leads, I need to hire another account executive, or I'm not feeding my account executive, I need to have more SDRs, and or I need to change my qualification criteria so that I'm getting more leads over. But I caution against just tossing over any kind of lead. You do want them to be higher quality than just anything over the fence.
Excellent. And then we have a question from Mike. What sales process or methodology should we be studying to learn more about disruptive coaching, would you say?
What methodology? Goodness, we've just sort of made it up on our own. I think ours is sort of a mishmash of different, just different readings and different findings. We model a lot in the high growth, high tech kind of Salesforce model, and I don't know if there's a specific method or process there. So I apologize for not having any specifics on that.
Nope, hey, it all helps, right? We have a couple other great questions. One is from Michelle. What is the appropriate cadence for a nurturing campaign to avoid being annoying but keep everyone interested?
Oh, that's always a good one. What we try to do on that is, when we do our cadence anyway, and again, it's really market driven, it's product driven, it's sales cycle driven. So there isn't any specific canned answer on that, but I'll let you know what our thought is on that anyway, and what we do is if we're doing a nurturing campaign and we see that we're just not getting the click-through rate, we'll change it up. And we'll have a sales and marketing, and I run both, so we're pretty tightly integrated, but we look at and have regular meetings about what's working and what's not working. So if we see that there's a particular nurturing campaign that we're sending this particular set of emails when someone scores this and they've met this time frame and they're going to get this email. If we have very, very little response rate on that, we'll change it up really quickly and say, you know what, we're not doing that anymore. That's just not working. But if we see we have a high click-through rate, then we'll try to move things over that way. So being able to manage and report on what your success rates are for particular cadence and campaign, we keep a really close eye on that, and we can modify it as needed, kind of ad hoc. I'll let you know that we get more response from ad hoc than we do from standard cadence. So if we say we put them in this nurturing campaign and every week they're going to get this newsletter or update, and then if they don't respond, then they drop down to this other campaign, what we find to be much more effective, now we still do that, but we track when people visit or when they do a click-through, we change them up and we do something a little bit different. But if someone comes back and visits our website and we have the luxury of knowing when they come back and visit a specific page, or maybe they're researching our compliance section, then we can be more proactive and immediately follow up on them, or relatively soon thereafter, without being creepy follow-up. So there's sort of somewhat of a science to it, and you just need to stay on top of it and be able to report on it to develop that appropriate cadence.
Excellent. We have another question from Heather, and it says, I struggle with lead scoring. Do you have any tips or additional resources to follow up on?
Again, there's so many different methods and thoughts out there. You really have to dissect your sales process and understand your buyers to score them appropriately. And again, we struggle with it too. Everybody does. But it's just figuring out what's working and what's not working based on real-time reporting, or as quick to real-time reporting as you can get. And and scoring triggers these things, and then if those things, and it's a cascading of a set of events, right? So if they bump into this next score category, then this new campaign kicks in, then that next campaign, for whatever reason, isn't very effective. And it's just this giant cascading thing. So you need to kind of manage all layers of that cadence in that campaign. And again, there's no specific science to it. It's all about data and managing to the results. But again, I'm giving nebulous answers because every business is a little bit different.
All right, and we have a question from another Mary, a different Mary. For crowdsourcing, can you tell us a little bit more about that and the typical industry or industries that use that most?
So I can speak specifically to technology, and the folks that I mentioned, in the discussion are ones where we have a presence, and we've been sort of drug into it. We didn't realize that our competitors were there, so we're somewhat late to the game, and that's G2 Crowd and a couple of others. But Find the Best is another one. Mostly it's technology that you see in those because of the type of purchaser that there is, that they want to go and get independent reviews. But you are seeing other types of applications and products being posted out to some of them. And I know all of them have these grandiose ambitions of adding every type of product imaginable to their particular site. So it's funny with G2 Crowd, they started off being a free service, so everyone could leverage their resources for free. And they were sort of slapping Gartner in the face by saying, we're going to build the equivalent of a Gartner Magic Quadrant, and we're not going to use it based on Gartner bias, and that a vendor is paying money to Gartner so that they score high on the Gartner Magic Quadrant. What they're sort of an upstart change up here where they're trying to change the game and saying that we don't want the Gartner Magic Quadrant, which is influenced by the vendor, how much they pay to Gartner. We want something to be completely objective as possible. So they take the subjectivity out of it by having qualified people who are LinkedIn validated post reviews. So those are the only types of people that can post reviews on G2 Crowd, and then there's a relatively high degree of understanding that they are indeed a user of that particular product, and that their review is much more viable. And so people can post reviews on G2 Crowd. It's free. They publish their results for free. But now, if we want, as a member of G2 Crowd, we now pay them to publish their reports. We can pay them but it doesn't influence the results. So different from Gartner, it might not influence the results. And I'm not insinuating that the more you pay to Gartner, the higher you are in the Magic Quadrant. That's a perception, right? That they're on it because they paid. But in G2 Crowd, it truly is objective, and now they're looking for ways to generate revenue for their business. But all of those, and again, all the ones that I listed are viable. Find the Best is another one that people generally go to. And Find the Best is very broad. It's not just technology. There are all sorts of things out there. So hopefully that answered that question.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. All right. I think we have time for 2 more questions. So here is one from Blaz. How would this apply if you were selling through resellers?
So I will say that from an education perspective and getting data out there, as long as it worked in your partner model, educating through those methods and means are certainly still viable. So we sell through partners as well as direct sales. So getting our information out there is just as valuable whether they're buying it through a partner or buying it through us. So being on the blogs, and certainly on the partner blog, and having them have access to all of your tools and collateral as well. But as far as sales development and all, that is a little bit different. So are you the lead source for that partner and you just give them all of the opportunities, or is it their responsibility to be the sales development agent? And so if it's the former, then you could build a sales development plan that would feed the leads to that particular partner. If you're the latter, and it's the partner's responsibility, then all you can really do is give them the tools and recommendations to build out their sales development process and sales development tools, and help them be successful in their own sales development. So it would depend on certainly the type of partner model that you have, but that shouldn't preclude you from doing some sort of each of these, right? Changing up your marketing automation to support them, and changing up some sort of sales development by either doing it yourself for them or by offering them the tools to build their own in their own process.
Excellent. All right. One final question from Stanislav. It sounds like the adaptive sales process requires a more sophisticated sales force. How does an organization with a medium-large size sales force, 100 plus, quickly and effectively adjust from the traditional model?
Oh, that's a great question. So, what I would do there, I would be like, and this is Larry talking. So what I would do is almost like that Salesforce model, and I would be disruptive within your own organization, and I would either take one of your top or productive sales reps, and I would work with them to create a disruptive sales process model. So think about, because they're going to know your business process and your sales process the best. And think of different ways, and maybe they're already doing that, right? Maybe they are already selling in creative ways, and they're getting to those disruptors. But find that out, but carve out just a small group of them and show some success, and that will help your organization learn that it works. And so carve out just a small group, experiment with it. I tried to explain that, and maybe not the best on my last slide, but there's no harm in trying some of these things, right? Carving out a small group and experimenting with it and doing things differently and changing up that sales process, experimenting with it. And you may find it just doesn't work in your industry, and your traditional sales process works. But just with this information overload, you have to think differently. So based on what it is you're selling and how you're selling, just maybe carve out a small group, prove its success, and then move that throughout the sales organization when it's successful.
Great. All right, everybody. We did not get through all the questions, so if you have a question you want to reach out to either myself or Larry via email, please don't hesitate to do so. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and thank you, Larry. It was a great webinar. Remember, our webinars tie directly to our Box of the Month initiative, where we highlight a different topic from the framework each month and provide extra information, insights, and implementation guidance in that area. Next month's box is product roadmaps. And helping us tackle product roadmaps for today's agile development environments will be Mike Smart of Egress Solution and Scott Selhurst from Tyner Blaine. So be sure to join us Wednesday, March 18th for that presentation. It's going to be a great one. Again, thank you for joining us, and have a great, great rest of the week.